On social media platforms today, quality content often goes unnoticed. On Den, users get paid for the creation, evaluation, and curation of quality content. Content creators are rewarded based upon the engagement and reach of their post or comment. Content evaluators are rewarded based upon the speed and results of their predictions about which content will trend or go viral. Community owners are rewarded based on engagement within their community. On Den, quality content pays.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the DENDAO call. And hey, it's I am for I am. Dave Distant is not available today, so it's just me. But
Okay.
so on the call, we have the agenda. There are no comments. There's no replies. So I think the agenda stands. It's all good. But let's see here. The things I have are, you guys can join. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. We have, let's see here, updates. The October 2022 LCP commitment phase started just last Tuesday. And so make sure you get in there and select. I haven't had a chance yet to go in and see how the layers are panning out, right? But it's looking pretty good. There's some movement. And it's always interesting to see what the highest. For whatever reason, they tend to separate a lot at the most committed by user count instead of by lore. So that's always interesting to watch. Which one does everyone jump onto each month?
You're talking about that gap between, like, say, 50 unique voters versus 37 voters between upcoming and books.
Yep. It always seems to be like that. It's I haven't watched enough and noted enough if it tends to end up being doubled, or not, but it's always significant so far. So anyway,
I guess people they like to pick winners, and they go, okay, well, this is more of a sure thing that I'm going to get some ownership in this.
Yeah.
So they pile in at the last minute. That's kind of how I'm thinking it works. My team wins the Super Bowl every year.
Yes, my team. Yep, that's how it works. So so get in there, examine them. Place your bets, place your commit yourself to each of them with the lore that you've earned on the site, and we'll see how it all pans out next Tuesday. It'll be awesome. Let's see here. So there was no community feedback in the post, but what do you have to say, sir?
I'm glad that last proposal went through. That's, I guess, first and foremost. I think we're treating a symptom, not the problem. The problem not having enough users would kind of fix that. However, having said that, again, I'll repeat myself in that if you have a layer with very few subscribers to a particular layer, this proposal will remedy that problem from anyone trying to game the system. So it has value, obviously, in that shall we say, modeling of this of a small layer. The only other item I would like to talk about later, after we could, is integration of, say, Odyssey or Rumble or something like that.
Right.
Getting your thoughts on that, other than just YouTube.
Yeah. Well, okay. So on the one, I'll say that there is one question that we haven't really asked anyone or talked about much, which is the small layers versus the big layers. The great thing about the big layers is you do have enough people weighing in typically. And when I say not just in subscribers, but in active participants in the layer, right?
Right.
The more people, So should that be an element of the competition that you want more active users, and maybe even you don't want necessarily, we might even do something where the ratio of active users to subscribers is the thing that would weight your layer, because then it's not just something you can, buy or pretend that you get a lot of people. It's a lot more work to have active users in your layer. So maybe,
Right.
and the only reason I say that is because right now that is one of the reasons that issue had such an effect, is that in the layers that were smaller, it is easier for manipulation. If you have enough people active in a layer, it's you might try to manipulate it and you might affect it, but it's largely going to be wasted energy and time, because the overwhelming consensus is going to be from real users and whatever.
Right.
So anyway, so that's something to think about. I think I might consider that as if it were proposed, that I might say, yeah, let's even tune content itself, content rewards based upon, put it through that extra filter, not just my content got 20,000 up and a consensus of 93%, whereas yours got 20,000 up and a consensus of 93%, but yours is in a much bigger layer, and you had 100 people weighing in where I had 15 people weighing in, right?
Sure.
Something like that might be a good factor to consider. Anyway, so
yeah. and adding to the I guess strengthening the role of the evaluator is critical. What was your thoughts on more people? Because we're asking, essentially, we're kind of pushing for people to downvote, in a sense, say weak content, and hopefully explain why. Do you think that could be translated into a retention issue?
Potentially, right? I mean, but everything is like, you look at anyone on any, and I'm not even just talking about crypto, but you look at any system that has ever been built, there's always going to be somebody, or any piece of art that's ever been created, there's always going to be somebody that's going to criticize it. So, and for whatever reason, it's like, oh, I might leave the platform because you changed the border color to green. I don't know. That stuff happens. And sometimes people just want to be dramatic.
Right.
So for whatever reason.
Yeah, and the whole the whole point of downvoting too is hopefully you're explaining and providing good feedback as to why you downvoted. And as Distant and I, we talked on Coffee with Den, I think tagging is a good way to shorthand, tag a tag that said weak content or something, and so you downvote it and you tag it weak content or something, that might
help. What if
help with that. So that way you don't have to go in and reply, hey, I'm downvoting this because blah 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 blah. A tag
now
can quickly address.
Yeah. Yes, a tag and the issue I have with which I really like the idea of, I'm voting this down and I have to tell you why, right? What if, and this maybe is radical, but between a tag and a reply, right? I mean, the issue with a reply is, you've downvoted, so you have to make a reply to tell us why you downvoted, and I just type ... enter, right?
Yeah.
Meaningless, right? What if let me see here. If you tied, now this is a little crazy. I don't want to make it too complicated, but I think is relatively simple, and the users don't have to care. And in fact, the people who aren't manipulating stuff definitely don't have to care at all. But what if we ran your evaluation, positive or negative, through a filter of two separate actions, or tied to two separate actions? So I downvoted 10,000, or I upvoted 10,000. Doesn't matter. What if my weighting on that, or how I should say this, how my vote affects that content's rewards, is what it matters most. So what if my vote is run through two separate filters, which are additive? I think that the one is, did I make a reply to this post? Or if I'm downvoting a reply, did I make a reply to that reply, right? Or, maybe to be more proper, did I make a comment anywhere in the thread, the conversation? Because if I did, that's great, but it could just be a ... a pointless comment, haha, whatever. What if the weight of my vote was boosted if I made a reply which had good consensus on it, good ranking, right? So essentially, if I made the reply that got the highest ranking, then my vote, whatever it was, up or down, was the most weighted, not in terms of consensus number, correct, but in terms of the weighting of the energy prediction market that gets that user, because it's essentially tying the legitimacy of my vote to whether I'm actively engaged in that conversation. Is it just, I'm just voted down because I don't like this guy? Or is it, hey, I think this content is probably a little more appropriate over there, and people's like, yeah, it's true, vote it up, right? So now my weight of voting it down is more affected. And the same on the positive, because if I'm responding in kind, even if I disagree with you, I voted it up because I got to say something about it that then also gets a good heavyweight upvote. That could be powerful because it's a lot more friction on someone trying to attack that system. And the other, I said two points. The first would be the reply and its consensus numbers. The second could be a one of a given set of tags, wrong layer. I don't know, because we'd have to identify which tags matter, spam, whatever else.
Wow, on the back end, the math seems complicated.
I don't think it would be, because I think it would be a simple. You would to the formula you would add another what do you call it, product. You'd add you'd multiply whatever it was by that consensus before you summed up the comparative market.
So how would it work on a reply of a reply of a reply, and the bottom of all those replies within that thread actually would outweigh everything else?
Well, the great thing is, most of the time, it's relatively rare. The replies don't have huge energy markets, so it's not going to affect much anyway. And most of the replies don't get other replies, and most of the replies don't get many votes. So compared to the posts, the evaluation of replies is a lot harder because there's not enough data. And the deeper you get, like let's say we had 1 million users in one layer, you're still going to have some replies that are relatively deep in a thread that aren't going to get even a single vote, or at least aren't going to get very many. And so it will matter less. And, effectively, you're the highest ranking voter on that reply, meaning yours, you make up 100% of the consent. It doesn't matter, right? You're 100%. Yeah. So versus let's say you and I both voted a certain way. Let's say you voted down because you're rude and obnoxious, and I vote up because I'm friendly, right? And let's say, though, that your reply got 1 vote, and therefore the weight of your downvote is, and I guess in this example, you'd want to know how much energy. Like if we both put in 10,000 energy in both directions, yours, because your reply or your tag actually of downvote, say it's spam, and then you said this really doesn't fit here or something, that even though I'm trying to manipulate it by voting it up because it was my buddy's post, and you see that you recognize it's not proper here, that even though I put in more energy, we put in the same amount of energy, your energy down affects it more than my energy up, even though we both have only 1 vote in that. I think that's how it kind of works. Anyway, it's I don't think it'd be too hard.
Yeah, I don't know. Running it through a filter. Interesting idea.
Because it would basically, I think it was, I might be wrong here. I think it was Y'all Weird that I might have first seen. I might be wrong. That might have first brought up, or it might have been you. I can't remember. Someone brought up that, whenever you downvote something, you should be forced to reply. And I think if we say, if nobody replied and you all voted up, then you're all even on this. But if I vote something up and I'm saying this is actually a really good question, blah, 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 and then my reply gets a high upvote, then I have a lot heavier weight on how much that post will be rewarded.
I guess my comment to that was I felt an obligation if I'm going to downvote, as an evaluator, I felt an obligation to give feedback to the content provider, and that was, I guess that was my point. So that it's educating and increasing the, provide what feedback actually does for content. It should raise the quality of the next posting by that content provider. As they evaluate. But going back to the whole tagging concept that we talked about, and creating a tag in the music layer, I'm going to start downvoting these. It's just there's no reason why a video from YouTube was posted in music layer. It was just a post with no description, no explanation, nothing. And so creating a weak, content tag and downvoting it seemed like a really cool way to express to somebody and make it very simple for someone rather than clicking on reply tab and typing something. Quick and easy, quick and solid feedback.
Especially if we have good patterns. Like wrong layer is a very obvious common pattern. And there are, spam is as well, abusive is as well. And if we made those tags have special meaning in this, then it's like, oh, okay, if you voted down and you marked because it's spam or because it was abusive, that's why you voted down. And that spam tag or that abusive tag gets a high level of consensus, then your vote is going to be considered more real, less noise, right? I think that might really work.
What is your future vision for tags as things develop?
Well, the big one is probably to be able to sort, to be able to, I could look site-wide and see all of the original content. By the consensus, this is really original. I'd be able to look inside of the music layer and just see the death metal or progressive rock or some other combination of types of music, or totally block anything about certain types of music, right? Things like that would be the most simple, because once you have a decent consensus on them, that's really powerful stuff. I mean, Google does some of that in a fuzzy way beyond them manipulating search. They do things with they do note given the same set of results for a search term, which one are people clicking on, and so they do track a lot of that in a similar way, and we're just kind of outwardly saying, we'll tag this, anyway. Okay, so next you were talking about the video streaming. Yes,
streaming other platforms other than just YouTube, a link to be able to stream, say Library / Odyssey or or Rumble.
Yep. And so on that, there are a whole bunch of different ways to look at it. We originally wanted to look at it as if we had a native streaming, it's a lot more work, a lot more integration. There are a lot of things that are questionable about scale, but we would be able to reward video content differently, and whether that means a different different token or different measure, or whether that means a pool, or whether it just means that your content is treated exactly like other content, but it is that this, like, say the shorter the video, the more people that watch it, the longer they watch it, and the more it gets on its regular content eval with the prediction market, the more you will get, right? And it would probably end up being some pool or something else, but do we really need that? I don't know. We're not trying to be a video platform, although you could, if I were library, if I were Rumble, that's what I would do. If I were YouTube, that's what I would do. But the other side of it that might be more appropriate is, and before I say this, I should say, we already have torrents. We already do have Vimeo, I think, just because the API was very similar or something. So it's already in there. I don't know if anybody uses it, but I think that our integration should be better too. It's a little bit clunky right now. You can't, if you're on mobile browser, you can't actually go to the YouTube app, or even so. There are a couple of things that are kind of clunky there, but the other side of it that might be more appropriate, might be simpler, would be it would be very nice if we had an integrated interface that would allow you to not just paste a link in for a YouTube or a Rumble or an Odyssey video, but instead allow you to link your accounts. So essentially on Den, you would be logging into Rumble, you'd be logging into YouTube, and you could upload your video to all of these platforms, and it wouldn't be, it'd be going directly from you to those apps because you'd be logged in. So it wouldn't have to go through us. So the scaling would be fine. But the reason we would want to do that is we would then allow you to say, yes, I want to upload to all of them or just a couple of them, and it would just do it for you. And now when I come in, and let's say you prefer Rumble, but I prefer Odyssey, so when I come in, I can have the default already set that you like Odyssey better. So if there is an Odyssey version, it shows that, and that way when YouTube bans something or whatever else, we can show it was actually deleted on YouTube, and yet you can still watch it on Odyssey, right? Yes. That would be really remarkable and effective.
Yeah, that would be an attraction to users.
Yeah.
And then you throw in the tags that you could search and see how many got banned on YouTube and for what reason.
Right.
That'd be kind of a really cool historical reporting that you could do. But yeah, native streaming is way down the road, I would think. But and true, we want content, we want quality content, and by somebody posting somebody else's video is not really a content provider. Or they are in a sense, but not.
Well, especially if it's a link. I mean, I halfway sometimes don't mind as much when someone posts something that isn't original, because the value that's being provided is that it's being archived on chain, right? Sure. So sometimes I'm like, okay, I don't mind seeing unoriginal content. But that said, when it's only a link to a YouTube video and they don't actually they don't write anything, then there is actually no content other than somebody posted this link to a video on YouTube. Right? Well, that's all that's on chain. So,
which brings me to a question: then what is stored? So if a YouTube has a video and someone posts a link to it,
it's just a link.
Yeah, it's just a link. There's nothing stored on the Dragon chain.
Right. Now on
only
Eternal,
the link is stored. The link is stored, but it's stored now to a dead end.
Yep, exactly. And on Eternal, if you archive a video on Twitter, it actually stores the video. It actually stores the images in that tweet, right? So they are on chain, and if they get deleted, they show up. On Den, we're not doing that, especially with YouTube, because it would be kind of ridiculous. People could post one of the 10-hour videos or something, and it's kind of, meaningless. We don't have the money that Google has to store that again. So, and maybe that's a premium thing too. Maybe in the future, we would allow you, and although maybe you don't need to, if we're just using Rumble and we're just using the other networks that are decentralized, maybe we don't need to do anything ourselves. And there is also the total ability later, if we wanted to reward for streaming torrents. So if you post a video that gets played more often, that rewards will go to you, but they will also go to the people who are literally seeding that torrent stream, so that anybody can watch it. So if it's an important video for a particular community, then maybe I'm going to go ahead and seed that video and get some earnings. So anyway, it's pretty cool.
I would like to see certainly another alternative other than just YouTube, because
Me too.
of the censorship. I
Me
think
too.
that would be probably my next, even though it's just a link. And I think that's, and even if it's just a link, and we're not talking about any kind of monetary compensation, as in, like, say, with library or whatever, I think it's important to have that.
Yep, I agree. So and I think that's more important than having our own native streaming.
Absolutely.
I think I'd rather have. You can imagine if we had our own native streaming, if they take that down, we're kind of screwed. But if we already had it on Rumble and Library and Odyssey and wherever else, then it's a pretty solid. And mostly, what we'd be offering is the ease of interface. And frankly, I would. Who knows if any of these platforms would have bounties or anything else, right? But
Sure.
But you imagine, I think it'd be valuable for those other platforms, because it's a very easy way where, who isn't on Den going to say, yeah, I want to use Odyssey, right? Or at least I want to use one of the non-YouTube versions. And yes, for the people, it is still on YouTube. So, if that's all I know, I can do it. Doesn't matter.
Well, so I guess, for simplistic purposes, we just want to be able to post the link to Odyssey or link to Rumble and have it play on Den.
Yep. So, and having the fact that people are uploading it, they're going to be far, far more likely to be posting original content and not just, here's a link to a video that I saw, right?
Right. So, of dancing cats or something.
Yeah, I think it was Dave or someone on Coffee with Dan, I think, said that, and I'm like, yeah, that's a really good point. You're not going to have as many people just paste in a shared link. So, so that is all I have. If you're okay, I'll close out, because I have a couple of things popping up. Awesome.
Thank you so much, Joe, for everything.
No, thanks for coming on. It's always awesome when you're on. So, because good ideas pass around. So let's see here. Reminder: submit questions to the next World Blockchain Roundtable, the next Super Happy Dragon Lucky, and the Coffee with Den shows. There's a lot going on. The questions answered on the roundtable and Super Happy will get NFTs. We'll get lot. One question per user. Let's see here. World Blockchain Roundtable is hosted in the WBRT layer. Super Happy Dragon Lucky is hosted in the Dragon Chain layer. Coffee with Den is hosted in its own layer, now a DAO. And DENDAO calls are hosted in the DENDAO layer. So, keep up on that. Make sure you subscribe to those and watch. We're actually going to be having, let's see here. Well, I'm actually probably going to not be on Super Happy next week. I think it's going to be Dave, because I will be traveling, but I should be back on the Thursday shows. So anyway, not a big deal. And I think that's it. So,
All right.
Thanks a bunch.
Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best.
Adaptable, all capital, label radical yet rational. A tactical approach is palpable if this animal is fallible, but that conclusion is laughable. So with for all detachable from the mandible, you see it now.